So Ginny is a native to this region, and she loves to boast that she was raised in Miami County, but socialized in the Dayton community. The blend of the two cultures, Ginny supports positively influence her perceptions of the world around her. As a nurse, Ginny fulfills her professional aspirations by caring for our communities while serving as a nurse leader. The art of communication is vital in her role of influencing others and elevating the practice of nursing. Finally, spreading her wings outside of academic learning, Ginny has delved further into the culture of Dayton by learning improv and by taking courses such as Laura's storytelling course. Her hobbies include gardening, bird watching, and collecting children's storybooks. She is excited to share her first memory of beginning to understand the sacred bond of siblings. Let's welcome Ginny to the stage.
Tears were gently streaming down my cheeks as my brother gave the best man toast on my wedding day. And then his wife, my sister-in-law, gave the matron of honor speech, just barely 3 months pregnant, with my niece, my goddaughter, and my tiniest bridesmaid. I feel like I have a million stories with my brother as a main character at the core of them. And while I realize that a lot of people consider their siblings their best friends when they grow up, I realize now into adulthood what a sacred, purposeful intention my parents had in helping Keith and I become best friends. So I'm in the 7th grade, and it's nearing the end of the school year, and our band director calls me into his office near the end of the school day and invites me to step up and march as an 8th grader with the high school marching band. And this was my big break. I grew up in a very small town, and my alma mater high school didn't even have a football team. So, oddly as it sounds, I was pumped to take this step forward. I was so excited I couldn't wait to tell my family. So I waited until that evening when we're all around the dinner table, and I shared the big news. And I was surprised when my brother became quite frustrated and agitated and angry. And it grew so heated that my mother actually banned the conversation from continuing until after dinner was over. I didn't understand. I mean, after all, we played the same instruments. We were going to be marching percussionists together. And as a freshman, I was going to be marching with him regardless, so we were really just delaying the inevitable. Dinner, dishes, pajamas. It was later in the evening, and I remember my father was already in bed preparing for his early morning at work the next day. And it wasn't too late though, because 3/4 of the house was still awake. And I waited until I heard my brother summoned from his bedroom to the living room. And I crept out of my bedroom down the carpeted hallway. And I positioned myself in a familiar spot, just as the dining room turns into the kitchen, where I knew I'd be hidden from sight, but perfectly within earshot of the conversation that was about to be had. Through the darkened kitchen and into the living room, my mother was seated on the left in her armchair, blanketed by the light of her lamp seated next to her, and posted with her crisp, cold American beer. And my brother, tall, lanky, freshman Keith, sitting perpendicular to her in another armchair in the living room. And I don't remember much what my brother said that night, but I remember hearing him begin to cry and eventually sob. And I couldn't understand at this age why my brother was so upset. Maybe it was because he had been hazed as a freshman this previous year as he entered marching band, or maybe he didn't want to compete with me at an earlier age doing the same type of hobby or joy. But I remember perfectly what my mother said that night. She said, "Keith, Ginny will always be your sister, and you will always be her big brother. And no matter what happens in life, you'll always have each other. Whether something happens to us or later in life, you two will be friends forever. And this is one amazing opportunity that you guys get to have together. And I knew that evening the decision had been made that I would step up that year for marching band as an 8th grader. But what I didn't know is that those 3 years that we got to be in marching band together would just be one small step in a lifetime of memories. From sitting on the kitchen counter, debriefing high school together while he ate one more bowl of cereal before going to bed, or from being welcomed at undergrad by him and all of his buddies and drinking my first beer with him, to going to Dayton Children's after a long shift, waiting and seeing him just exhausted, holding his newborn daughter who needed to be seen. I realize now, looking back, that this memory was just the beginning of a beautiful relationship with my brother. And to this day, I still consider my brother one of my best friends.